Good morning. Welcome. We're getting after it today on the National Briefing. With me, Kelly Nash, you will be fully informed and ready for your day, plugged in on all the important issues. And of course, we've got a lot to get to a little bit later on. We'll be talking about the government shutdown, what's going on with the air traffic controllers, all of it, ICE, the whole thing. But here's a story that I don't want to say it's bubbling under, but it's not maybe getting the attention that I thought it should. So I'll start the show today with this. There was a SCOTUS hearing yesterday. Now, we're not going to get a result from this SCOTUS hearing probably till next June. So we're still quite a ways from finding out how it turns out. But it appears that common sense, it feels like we're going to get some sanity back in America. If you're not aware of it, back in the Biden administration, and it started earlier than that. I mean, the war against Christians, the war against sanity started back during the Obama administration. They labeled something where teenagers who identified as homosexuals but didn't want to be homosexuals, they called that, if they went to a mental health expert and said, I don't want to be gay, can you help me? If you help them, they call that conversion therapy. They called it very dangerous. It's very dangerous. And so then we now have 20 states in America that have outright banned it. You can lose your medical license if you actually attempt to help a teenager or anybody who doesn't want to feel like a transgendered, non-binary, anything that we used to call a mental illness. And we'll get into that and the history of how that's evolved over the last few decades here in the United States. But let's first go to the Supreme Court yesterday. And all of a sudden, the legal experts said, it looks like Colorado is going to lose their case because Colorado's the one that's being sued by a woman who is a therapist, who is very upset by the idea that she cannot help people who are asking her for her help. Elena Kagan, again, very liberal justice on the Supreme Court, had this to say about it.
If a doctor says, I know you identify as gay, and I'm going to help you accept that, and another doctor says, I know you identify as gay, and I'm going to help you to change that, and one of those is permissible and the other is not, that seems like viewpoint discrimination in the way we would normally understand viewpoint discrimination.
We got a problem. Liberals are starting to see things that way, at least at the Supreme Court level. So the solicitor for Colorado, her name is Shannon Stevenson, she started trying to walk back the law a little bit, tweaked it. She tried to tweak it right in front of them. And so the legal experts, if you watch any of those legal experts on TV and stuff, they almost were laughing at this lady as she tries to tweak the law and explains it this way.
If the therapist told him or he asked, can you help me become straight? The answer would be it would be banned. If it was, can you help me cope with my feelings as to how I am and how I want to live my life? That's permitted.
So if I want to live my life as a straight person, but I don't use the word straight, they can help me. If at any point the word straight is introduced to the conversation, I can't get any help. Interesting. Now, I mentioned that it used to be considered a mental illness. It was December of 1973 that the American Psychiatric Association reversed their decision and no longer considered it a mental illness. And here's what they said at that time, 1973. We will no longer insist on a label of sickness for individuals who insist that they are well and demonstrate no generalized impairment in social effectiveness. Two thoughts about that statement. One, the people who are looking for help are not insisting that they are well. They are saying, I am not well. I am attracted to the same sex, or I want to change. And again, we got into the transgender stuff a little bit later, but they're not insisting that they're well. They want help. So even by the 1973 standards of the American Psychiatric Association, conversion therapy, as it's called, should be allowed. Secondly, no generalized impairment in social effectiveness. Now, when you make that statement, that's pretty open to interpretation. Social effectiveness. Are you just talking about the individual is able to participate in society, if that's the case, then yes, I agree. But need I remind you that homosexual behavior cannot be considered normal, because if it was normal, it would lead to the actual extinction of the human race. That should be pretty obvious to everybody. That can't be allowed to be considered normal if it kills us all. The whole race will be wiped off the map if that was considered normal. So, and when you say no generalized impairment in social effectiveness, if part of the social effectiveness is defined as procreating, which a lot of people would consider that important, then yeah, no. The falling birth rates in the United States have been a problem for years. We've talked about that here a number of times. So no, both statements are wrong at the APA level regarding conversion therapy and the ban that they put in. They started putting these bans out, I think around 2017, 2018 is when they really started trying to do it at the local levels. And again, 20 states now have done that. When they talk about conversion therapy being dangerous, they talk about it leads to suicide rates. Well, let's go ahead and take a look at suicide rates amongst homosexuals. According to the study from the CDC, LGBTQ youth are 4 times more likely to attempt suicide than straight peers. That was in 2023. Why would that be? You cannot use the argument anymore that gay people are not accepted in society. Especially if you're talking about a teenager. If you're talking about 1980s, okay, I can see the argument being made that they felt isolated, they couldn't be who they really wanted to be, blah, blah, blah. But, I mean, Jerry Seinfeld had one of those famous lines in the 90s where he was like, they're gay. Not that there's anything wrong with it. I mean, we've been talking about that now for 30 years. It's okay to be gay. So it's not the pressure from society that's killing them. There's something wrong and they don't know how to deal with it. That's the problem. And if you look at one of these surveys, they're saying that, here it is, the 2024 Trevor Project survey found that 40% of all LGBTQ young people had seriously considered suicide in the past year. And it rose to nearly half of that. So now you're talking about 60% of transgender non-binary youth considered suicide in the last year. Seriously considered it. They're not well. They're not saying I'm fine. And then when you look at the people who actually go ahead and get the surgery, you can see the social media pages are filled with people regretting that decision. And actually a lot of them are upset that they were allowed to do this when they were 15, 16, 17 years old, and that nobody stepped in and said, God, that's really, it's a thought process. We got to change the way you're looking at the world. We got to fix it. The fact that the Supreme Court right now is on the verge of outlawing these state laws is fantastic news. This is the beginning of the healing of the damage that we've been doing to young people in America for years. We are going to help you now. The help is coming back. The therapists, when you go to a therapist and say, I would like help with this, you're no longer going to be denied care. The Democrats, who are the party of, just big hearts and we love everybody. You know who you don't love? People who want to be straight. You don't love that. You don't love men in general. You call it toxic masculinity. You don't like God's creation. You want to change God's creation into some sort of vision that you have. That's not normal. That's not healthy. We are rejecting it. And I cannot wait for June to get here so the Supreme Court can rule against you.